Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Luke Papala Show. There's been a lot of things that have happened over the past couple days, and we are going to cover all of them. First off, we have Charlie Kirk's memorial. So, over the past 2 weeks, everybody's been talking about the death and assassination of Charlie Kirk, and on Sunday, he had the memorial. Now, they had over 300,000 people at the memorial. It was very moving to see all those people gather in support of Charlie Kirk and support of Christianity. But I think we should be honest about the memorial itself, and specifically the speakers. So you have people like Vance, you had Donald Trump, obviously President of the United States. You had Marco Rubio, Tucker Carlson. You had Stephen Miller, all people in the administration. But to me, the only meaningful speech was Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, his wife. She had a really moving speech about forgiveness and a really emotional moment where she publicly forgave her husband's killer, which I think is something we really need right now in our country. I tweeted about it. I talked about it. This is something that we need. We need the element of forgiveness. We need Christianity back in the country. But a lot of the speakers, starting with Trump, I feel like really perverted his memorial. And I'll play the first clip here, where Trump talks about how Charlie was not a hater. He didn't hate his enemy, but I hate my enemy. I'm quoting Trump. And I thought it was really disgusting, to be honest with you. I'm just going to play it for you here, and then we could talk about it after. Here we go.
Missionary with a noble spirit and a great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent.
And then they all laugh at this. Listen to everybody laughs at this.
And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
What? So then PBD, Patrick Bet-David, goes, he tweeted that video. And he goes, honestly, how can you... Oh, it's playing here. He goes, honestly, how can anyone not love this man? Charlie did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponents and don't want the best for them. Sorry, Erica. Charlie is angry looking down at me right now. That's what Trump said. And everybody is thinking, I mean, you see the comments. Everybody is saying, what? This is a little bit outrageous. Christianity is about forgiveness. Yes, obviously, you can't let somebody walk all over you as a Christian. You can't let that happen. If somebody is trying to hurt you, you have to fight back. But loving your neighbor as yourself is the epitome of Christianity. And to have Trump at this memorial for Charlie Kirk, who was an evangelical, he wasn't Catholic, and this was by no means a Catholic memorial, but having somebody like Donald Trump pervert the memory of Charlie Kirk like that and kind of taint his message was really shitty, I thought, to be honest with you. And it wasn't just Donald Trump. Again, this was supposed to be a memorial, but the speakers at large, not all of them, but the speakers at large treated it like it was a circus and like it was a Republican National Convention. That's just how it felt. Here's Tucker Carlson low-key blaming Israel for Charlie Kirk's murder without saying the quiet part out loud at his memorial.
Ultimately, he was a Christian evangelist. And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I could just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
Again, I like Tucker, but the laugh at a memorial for somebody that was just assassinated is not a good look. I don't think it's a very good look. And then to compound on top of that, right, to add on top of that, he basically compares Charlie Kirk, the conspiracy theory that Charlie was killed by Israel, compares it to how the Pharisees killed Jesus. Who were the Pharisees? You can do your own research on that. I'm not going to say the quiet part out loud, but it starts with a J. So there's that. And it wasn't everybody. Marco Rubio had a touching speech. J.D. Vance had a touching speech. Obviously, Erica Kirk, probably the best speech, I think. But it felt like a giant circus. It felt like it was an RNC. Once again, it felt like the Republican National Convention. It was very identical. And so I'm doing all this analysis. I'm looking at all of this. Watching all these speeches, watching what people online are saying. And we'll get to the liberal perspective, the progressive perspective in a little bit. But I want to go to this one picture of somebody carrying a cross. So I don't know who this guy is, but he's carrying a cross on, as you can see right here, wheels. You can see right here, there's wheels. And I felt like that kind of encapsulated the whole evangelical backdrop of this memorial. So it says right here, this person captioned, it says, "What are we doing here, evangelical bros?" And it's like this was kind of encapsulated in that picture. That picture kind of sums up the whole memorial for Charlie Kirk, because whilst it was put on to have everybody there, have all of these hundreds of thousands of people there celebrating the life of this wonderful man, celebrating this great Christian evangelist, but also this highly political figure, an influential figure in Gen Z life, but also in modern American life. I mean, let's just be honest. That kind of encapsulated everything, because the speakers and the way it was put on, it kind of made it feel like a joke. And they kind of desecrated Charlie Kirk's memory. Now, Charlie probably would have wanted this. It's just who he is. He was a very much evangelical, very anti-Catholic when you go back to what he was saying. But I have another tweet, and I'm gonna put this up right here. Somebody else tweeted that same picture again of somebody carrying a cross with wheels. And it says right here, "Putting wheels on this cross to bear is the best possible metaphor for American evangelicalism." And that's true. I believe that to be fully true. You see, these people, they often take the discipline out of Christianity, out of Catholicism. That's my whole critique of the evangelical Christian movement in the United States. They take all of it, and I feel like they desecrate a lot of what Christianity is supposed to be. They disrespect Mary when they say she's without, they criticize the fact that she's without sin, and they call it Mariology. And then they talk about how there's different parts of the Bible that are taken out. And then they take a formal setting, a very traditional setting, like a traditional church, like a Catholic mass. And they take out all of the tradition, all of the reverence, the traditional songs, the beauty in everything that is the Catholic mass. And they kind of desecrate it, and they kind of make it this false, I don't have a word for it, but it's kind of like a false god. When you put human beings, when you criticize the Catholic Church, as they do, I've heard the evangelical perspective over and over and over again. But when you criticize the Catholic Church and you say, "I can't worship man, I worship God," and that's what they say, and they blame the Pope as being somebody that we worship, and they criticize us, traditional Catholics in general, as people that worship the Pope, and they say you worship saints and all of that, and they say you have false idols, and they list the different saints and stuff like that, and they say, "Oh, you pray to saints," and what have you. Not to get off topic here, let me weave you back into the point. But then when they have this non-traditional way of worship, and it feels very contradictory to me. Like this right here, once again, like American evangelicalism, I'm not going to pull this picture up for you, but it just feels like you're living Christianity on easy mode. And I can't think of an image that more encapsulates that point by carrying a cross with a wheel on the back to make it easy. Because this isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. Life is hard. Life is not easy. I don't know. I doubt that God is unhappy with evangelicals, because they're still proclaiming the good news, let's be honest. But when you go after Catholics time and time again, when I don't think it's very productive, it's the church that Christ literally started. All of these other iterations of Christianity are just human beings who are imperfect breaking off from Christ's church. When he says to Peter, "On this rock you'll build my church," that's the modern day Catholic Church. It is what it is. when you have all of these people that are breaking off and they celebrate mass and they worship in their own way instead of the way that God like literally gave us to worship, it feels a little bit odd. And so that's just my criticism. They made it like a mega church, basically. It wasn't a memorial. They made it like a mega church service to make money off of. They were registering Republicans to vote outside, which I think that's what Charlie would have wanted. But it just felt very evangelical, very performative to me. I didn't think it was good to remember Charlie Kirk by Donald Trump talking about how he hates the left, for example. And I don't know if Charlie would have loved how Tucker Carlson's ensuing that Israel killed Charlie Kirk at his own memorial because he was the biggest defender of Israel. Once again, it doesn't make any sense. There's no credible evidence that Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel. It just does not make sense to me. It never did. And so that's my critique on the modern evangelical movement in America. I don't think that Charlie was converting to Catholicism behind the scenes. His wife was Catholic, so that's why he was at the Mass. That's why there's pictures of him in a Catholic church. But he was very critical of Catholicism, and this kind of sums it up. So rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. This is probably the last time that we'll talk about Charlie on the show for a little bit. But it's so sad to see these leaders and these people that ran this whole thing kind of make it about the GOP. And make it about just othering people, you know what I mean? It's really sad, and it's really sick, so. But the left, honestly, the left had a lot to say about this. So we'll start talking about what Don Lemon said. So he kind of said the quiet part out loud. He called this a political rally dressed as church, which is exactly what it is. And I think it was a pretty honest critique. I don't think it was a hateful critique. We'll get into what Destiny says in a little bit. But listen to what Don Lemon said about this, and I think it's pretty accurate, and it's pretty much what I said as well. Here we go.
It was a revival meeting wrapped in a memorial, a political rally dressed as church. And by the end of the night, it was clear this was not only about Charlie Kirk's death. It was about his afterlife in politics. Donald Trump stood on the stage like a man at the center of a prophecy. He called Charlie Kirk a martyr. Other politicians promised to carry out his mission. The crowd cheered as if the passing of the man had lit some sort of sacred fire. To me, this was not mourning, this was a mobilization. And here is where we have to tell the truth here. What we saw in that arena was not simply faith-finding public expression. It was religious nationalism on full display. That is the truth. That is my truth. This is my freedom of expression. This is my First Amendment right to be able to tell you the truth from my point of view. Not just from my point of view. This is what it is. The language was unmistakable. Take the nation back for God. Restore America's covenant. This is a holy calling. That's what it sounded like. This is not the language of democracy. This is the language of domination.
So, misunderstood the clip a little bit here when I read the title. But nevertheless, okay, so Don Lemon isn't actually criticizing the whole memorial. He's saying what it is. And this is something that I neglected to say at the beginning of the podcast, so I'll just say it. I think it is a net positive. I have many criticisms of evangelical Christianity, lots of criticisms of non-denominational Christianity. I feel like they're just kind of taking things into their own hands and practicing the religion how they interpret it, which I don't think we should do anything in terms of interpretation when it comes to religion. I feel like there's clear-cut things that have to be met. Nevertheless, his opinion is true. We've fallen so far away from God in this country, and I didn't watch his whole episode. I just watched this clip. But his analysis is pretty much on point. This was mobilization. I wasn't a big fan of how it was carried out, but nevertheless, you could pretty much see it, especially with Erica Kirk's message about forgiveness, that this was about bringing the country back to Christianity. And although I did have problems with Tucker and Trump in what they spoke about, overall, you did get the sense that, like, even once again, if I didn't really like the way it was going about, you did get the sense that, like, this was uniting people under God in Jesus Christ's name. And I think that was very powerful. So what Don Lemon is saying, and I think he does go on to say, oh, this is to show how Christian nationalism is very dangerous. I think it does become a smear, but that interpretation is pretty accurate. I'm not going to lie, and I apologize. I did not see it as something that was positive in terms of an analysis. I didn't read into it, but there are people on the left, and there's a reporter from MSNBC that I am going to play. She literally did call this a form of Christian nationalism that the founders wanted. And she goes on to make it a smear. But this is the clip of this particular news anchor on MSNBC calling this Christian nationalism.
What you are seeing here is a movement called Christian nationalism that merges Christianity as it's been practiced in America for, centuries with a very specific interpretation of what the founding fathers wanted, what Aristotle wanted, going all the way back to the ancients. You saw Larry Arnn, who is the president of Hillsdale College and a proponent of this strain of interpretation of the Bible, merge Christianity and protecting the Western civilization values into one and the same thing. It's a very somewhat convoluted argument, but if you distill it into the right talking points, it really hits you in the patriotic heart area, as it were.
Okay, so it didn't become a smear. I wasn't sure. I know later on it becomes a smear, but this clip in particular, the reporter from MSNBC isn't smearing the memorial at all. My thoughts are still I have a problem with the whole modern evangelical Christian way of worship, but I do view it as a net good. This is bringing people back to Christ. This is bringing Americans back to God. If this is the movement that did it, then Charlie didn't die in vain. He died for a purpose. But there are some people on the left that really demonized this whole memorial. And again, I have my problems with it, but at the end of the day, I do think it is a net good. But Destiny did not. So if you're familiar with the streamer Destiny, he is a progressive streamer on Twitch, very left-wing, very pro, all of the things. He has been possessed by a demon lately, it feels like. This is what he had to say about Charlie Kirk's memorial. Quote, "This Charlie Kirk memorial is indistinguishable from a Nazi rally, and fuck anyone who wants to pretend it's not." What? That's a little bit crazy. It wasn't a Nazi rally, but this guy seems to be filled with hate, and I don't understand why. It's more and more he's coming out, and he's going on college campuses now, and he's getting into this really demonic headspace, it feels like. Just everything he's saying, everything he's tweeting out is really hateful. And I don't know, man. I don't like it. I don't like where it's going either. He's talking right here about RFK. He goes, "I will never get how the head of our Health and Human Services Department sounds like if he drank orange juice with pulp, he wouldn't make it." Continues to go on. I can pull up more tweets here where he's just tweeting about himself. So here we go. "Conservatives will find a single mean thing a Democrat says in an hour-long speech and characterize the speech as hateful. They will turn around to find a single nice thing in hours of long, hate-filled political rally in order to hand-wave every bit of malevolence." Another example of this insane speech Trump gave on January 6th. So Steven Crowder, right, to give you a little reference, Steven Crowder he posted a video of Hitler talking about forgiving his enemies, okay? He just went on a tear. So Meghan McCain, this is the day the memorial went on. She goes, "Today is the day Democrats lost 2028. He goes, "Fat." He's kind of being a troll. But specifically, I want to get back to that tweet where he says that the memorial is indistinguishable from a Nazi rally and fuck anyone who wants to pretend it's not. That's not true. It wasn't a Nazi rally. I have my quarrels with it, but not every single political rally or political gathering where there's a mass amount of people on the right is a Nazi rally. All of this stuff, this hate, we've covered how Destiny has stroked all of the political rhetoric in favor of hate and has called for people to be hurt or potentially be killed on the right. I've played the clips. I'm not going to play it again. But this guy is going crazy. I don't understand how people can be filled with such hate. I just don't understand. It never made any sense to me. You can't have all of this consuming. You can't be online all the time. You can't be constantly listening to your political party of choice talk about how the other side is so bad, it's eventually going to radicalize you, and it's eventually going to sensationalize you and make you want to commit acts of violence. You can't do that. You can't justify it. I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. You can't other people when it comes to this stuff. It doesn't. I don't get it. I don't get it. And so this guy, he tweets a lot, but I don't know. Fuck everybody who disagrees is crazy, man. It's crazy. So nice little way to start off the show here. We have, I'll talk about this real quick. So Nick Fuentes is going on PBD. Now the episode is releasing today. By the time this episode is out, the episode with PBD and Nick Fuentes will already be out, and you'll all be able to see it. But this is kind of crazy because this has been something going on for a long time. This has been in the making for a very, very long time. And I'm gonna play you the trailer here, and then we can talk about it. But this is a trailer. It'll be very interesting to watch this. Once again, I haven't watched this episode yet. By the time this episode comes out that you are watching right now, then the episode will be out, and we can all talk about it. But here's the trailer that's under a lot of scrutiny right now.
Your opinion of me? I'm Middle Eastern, married to a white girl. Or do you think it's better off for America to minimize more of me coming to America?
America is no longer America. Mass migration is changing what America is. And I want to conserve what America historically has always been.
Well, that's a little bit, that's a little bit harsh.
Well, I'm not in favor of interracial marriages. That's against my values. I want to have a white wife. I want to have white kids. That's important to me.
That's kind of racist.
I agree.
Okay.
But let's remember the context.
How bad is the video? Is it appropriate
You
to
can
just
pull
show?
it up, yeah.
Rob, can you pull it up? I'm actually curious on how bad the video is.
It's a funny search query. I'm not sorry because this is a political attack. This is how political control is maintained.
So when you go a week ago and you're like, you don't need to do it. Drop in the N-word. How is your approach going to change moving forward?
I don't think there's much that needs to change.
I've seen the tweets, I've seen the videos.
I don't platform trolls.
But how are you processing this?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I thought there were things about the memorial that were distasteful. I did not like him when he was alive. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, listen, you going to the dark side of where you're going right now? Is that kind of where you're going or not at all?
I didn't even want to do the show at that time. I was looking for an off-ramp. At that point, they were trying to knock me out. It made me want to stay in the game.
I got it. Okay.
This is going to be one of the good ones, man. This is going to be one of the great interviews that Patrick Bet-David does. Nick Fuentes on PBD. This has been in the works for a long time. People have been asking for it for a very long time. And, yeah, this is crazy. Here's an interview or a clip of him on his podcast back in July. And he's talking about Nick Fuentes. And he said for a long time he didn't want to have Nick on because he uses the N-word. And so let's see what he said back then.
First level, which is courage, permitting, feasible, permitting, affirmation, empowerment. I see some of the guys on X, they're posting stuff. I saw a video of Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes made a video, and he said, I've been called out. I can't say the N-word anymore because Patrick Bet-David at Turning Point USA got up and he said the reason why he's not willing to have me on is because I say the N-word too much. And you know what, folks? I think it's come time that I have to make certain sacrifices. So moving forward, I won't be using the N-word. I think in some kind of a way, he says he's right. I don't know when he said it. The guys just showed it to me yesterday. Brandon did, and I reacted to it. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I like the way he communicates. I think he's a phenomenal communicator. If he dropped some of the stuff, he would have more of an opening to present his argument and say what he stands for. Make sense?
So that's back in July. Before this, he was saying how he doesn't like how Nick uses some of the inflammatory language he uses. But nevertheless, he's somebody on the alt-right, and these are not opinions that are being held by the mainstream. So you have to keep an open mind. There, he was having a little bit more of an open mind than he had previously. But he finally caved. Nick is somebody who is so popular right now. He's gaining so much mainstream appeal. He's probably the biggest live streamer on Rumble, for sure. But one of the biggest live streamers on the internet right now in the world. he has such a large following. He's growing on Rumble every single day. He's about to hit 1 million Twitter followers, or X followers, which is insane. You see all of these opinions that maybe your dad or your grandpa or your uncles had when you were growing up, but they couldn't say it. And these opinions haven't had mainstream credibility for a very long time. Whether you agree or disagree, these are still opinions. And because the far left had a voice for such a long time, and now they have this microphone, this giant microphone, the far right needs to have these opinions expressed too. Nobody has been they haven't really been exposed to the far right ideas. Those ideas haven't been exposed to the mass people, the population, for maybe half a century, 4 decades. And so people being able to hear everybody's ideas is very much important. And when you have a far right figure like a Nick Fuentes on one of the biggest podcasts in the world, you're going to be able to get a lot of exposure. So good for PBD for finally having him on. I'm very excited for this episode because PBD is somebody who has a lot in common with Nick Fuentes. He's a conservative. Obviously, Nick is far right. He's not just a conservative. But this is going to be a very good interview, so I'm very excited about it. Very much looking forward to it. It might break the internet. It'll be really interesting to see how many millions of views it gets, but it's going to be cool. So to transition, because I did see this clip today. Folks, I haven't talked about Kamala Harris once since she lost the election because she was a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. She was just a figurehead. She had no ideas whatsoever that were her own. She's back in the news. Why? Shocker, she wrote a book. It's called 107 Days. And what this book is it kind of chronicles the 107 days that she had when Biden dropped out of office to the election concluding in November. And it chronicles these days up to how she had to really just hurry up and get things together because she wasn't given a lot of time. Of course, she frames, I haven't read the book. I've read passages from the book posted online. Of course, she frames it how she's a woman and she was thrown with so much, and she was also the least popular presidential candidate in the past 40 years. But she talks here about Pete Buttigieg and how she wanted to have Pete Buttigieg as her vice president, but because he was gay, she didn't do it. Now, she tries to make it sound a little bit more humane, and this is coming from a Democrat who pretends to at least be all for this stuff. But listen to her talk about how she didn't want Pete Buttigieg to be her VP because he's gay on Rachel Maddow, who is also gay. Take a listen.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
Rachel Maddow goes, yeah, you didn't want Pete Buttigieg to be your VP because he's gay. And she goes, no. But I didn't want him to be my VP because he's gay. It's basically what she said. She's using the excuse that she only had 107 days and because she was a black woman running for VP and she didn't have any time and blah, 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 blah. That's why I didn't want Pete Buttigieg to be my VP. Folks, is it because of that? Because why don't you want him to be your VP? I mean, let's just spitball here. Why? Is there something about him? I mean, he's a veteran. That should be pretty cool. That should give you some props in the veteran community, but also the conservative community who might want to see something like that, a veteran in a major cabinet position. I wonder why she didn't want him to be the VP, because there was 107 days, and it was so little time. I wonder why she didn't want Pete Buttigieg to be the VP, but she insists that it's not because she was gay or he was gay. So what is it? Oddly enough, it's kind of funny she chose Tim Walz, who is even gayer than Pete Buttigieg, which doesn't even make any sense. But what a meltdown. And I saw this and I thought, this is exactly what the left does. They accuse others of being homophobic when their actions themselves are homophobic. It's so crazy. It is so crazy to see them contradict their arguments constantly. And again, this is Kamala Harris, somebody who did not get better at speaking at all since she concluded her presidential run that failed miserably. This is somebody who is constantly tripping over her words every single time she had a public outing, whether it was a campaign rally and she was code switching and switching the way that she talked, her accent. She seemed pretty clear that this is like the dominant accent that she uses. She talks like a regular person. When she was in Detroit and Georgia, she was talking about, oh, y'all, Donald Trump, he's not good, y'all. And she would code switch. What was the thing? I can't remember the exact phrase that she used. But she was just talking and presenting herself as very, very Southern. Y'all got to register to vote. Something like that. And it was just like, this is obviously a very fake person, but also making a big ass of herself. And so when you see things like this, she's still tripping up over her words. There's a reason why the last time that you heard about her was the last day of the election, because she's not talented. She is a mouthpiece. She will say whatever it is to get a ladder up, right? A neck up, a leg up, in whatever political position she is running for. She failed up, and she was very good at doing that for a very long time. But now you see there's nothing left. So the book deal, of course, is the last thing. Maybe she gets paid millions of dollars to speak in the coming years, but this woman has nothing of talent. That's what you have to understand. So to conclude this whole thing, like you see the massive contradiction. Of course she didn't want Pete Buttigieg to be the vice president candidate because he's gay. Of course, that's the only thing. That's the only thing. This party doesn't care about track record. Yes, he was the Secretary of Transportation in the Biden-Harris administration, and it's pretty crazy how he is the only Secretary of Transportation that anybody can remember in recent memory, because that's when the planes started to fall down. But that is not why. If that was the singular thing, then they would have picked him in a heartbeat. But it is because he's gay, and they were worried. So all of this stuff about how we're so pro-LGBTQ, it's false. It's always been false. These people would do anything and say anything to get power. This is just how it is. Now, would Kamala be a better president than Trump right now? I don't know. But it's clear that Kamala hasn't stopped drinking since the election. So that's that. I just think it's very funny how she's just very much contradicting everything that she's saying. So it's insane though. I just can't get over it, man. I really just don't understand why they're pushing her out in front of us again. Like, there's no reason. I don't know who recommended this book deal. I don't know why there's a book deal going on for her. Nobody wants to read it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I want to transition again because we are talking about another Democratic candidate. This time it's the Democratic candidate for New Jersey. Oh. And so this lady, her name is Mickey Sherrill. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. But she's a Democratic candidate for New Jersey. And she went on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God, everybody. And they actually pressed her. Why did they press her? Because she was making $7 million on stocks. Now, the thought is maybe she was insider trading. Maybe she had some knowledge that we also all of us weren't pertinent to. But just look at the response for her when Charlamagne questions her, rightfully so. I mean, she made a lot of money trading stocks as a politician. Charlamagne really goes after her, and look at the response. Pretty bad response. I don't think this is going to be well for her. Here we go.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to again, what kind of came from.
I don't know. I'd have to check. What? How do you not know if you made $7 million from stocks? I think you would know. Let's see what the comments say. Here's AOC openly admitting the Democrats in Congress are doing insider trading. What?
There need to be Democrats who walk the walk and talk the talk. There is an insane amount of hypocrisy, and the hypocrisy is what gets exploited to use the cynicism. And wherever there's a hypocritical window, for example, I think one of the most biggest examples of this is insider trading in Congress. Like,
dude, I don't know if do I give snaps? I don't know what the kids do anymore, but dude, it is
that's
so crazy.
It's so crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, and this is the thing. It's like people think that everyday people are stupid.
Not a big fan of AOC, but she's very much correct. Here's some of the quotes in the comments from this video from The Breakfast Club. Quote, "I'm not talking to you until you confess you cheated on me. I told you I'd have to fact check." Next up, we have Mickey Sherrill's her net worth. Oh, look at this. This is her estimated net worth. $14.59 million. 300 total trades. What? Guys, this is her net worth. You're telling me you don't know if you made $7 million? What? This is how much. She was worth $2.3 million in 2018. Now, holy fuck. How are you worth $14.59 million in 2025, 7 years later? It doesn't make sense. You probably know what your net worth is remotely if you're a person of this stature. So it's quite crazy. But folks, I'm not even pertinent to what she is right now. Like, what is Mickey Sherrill right now today? Let's Google that right now, and then we Oh, she's a congresswoman. She is a congresswoman, so she is running as the governor, Democratic candidate for governor in New Jersey. But right now, she is a congresswoman. Huh. Interesting. So right there, this is exactly what AOC is talking about. She is a congresswoman for the state of New Jersey, specifically the district. I want to read that real quick if I can find it. 1 second here. Bear with me, folks. Okay, right here. She is the, I wish I could find it. It's not happening. Okay, New Jersey's 11th congressional district since 2019. So this is a sitting congresswoman who doesn't know how much money she's made insider trading, or at least she's telling Charlemagne the God that she doesn't know. She's lying. These people are liars, not just the Democrats, but the Republicans too. This one happens to be a Democrat, but it is so insane how these people continue to be contradicted. And good on the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne the God in particular, who I don't agree with on a lot of things, but in particular this one, this is like the uniting thing for all of Americans. When you see that the people that are making your laws are full of shit and they're taking advantage of all of the information that they have, and they're taking advantage of you and they're lying to you and they're enriching themselves privately when you have to pay more taxes. You have to fund all of the things that they are passing through. They're literally kicking the can down the road and extending the debt ceiling so our country can be more in debt. That's on us. That's on the taxpayers. Meanwhile, they are financially enriching themselves because they have all of the information with all of the bills that they are going to pass, and they know which companies are going to financially benefit from these bills that they passed. So they have the knowledge. They already know what's going on prior to these bills being passed. And they say, hey, this company in this particular field, say it's solar energy, we're going to pass a bill that's going to put 1 million solar panels on American soil by 2030, let's just say. Hey, we're going to buy these couple solar companies. We're going to buy $100 million of stocks, or 100 million stocks, let's say, in this solar company. It's maybe trading at $2-3. Goes to $50. They sell it They make the profit, they insider trade. We don't have that information, but they take advantage of it, and they're very much able to in this current political climate. There has to be some regulation. There has to be some laws, because these people, they're elected to benefit us. They're elected to fight for us. But lately, it just feels like they're benefiting themselves. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's insane. I just, I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't feel great. So, but I think that's the show. We'll get back to you tomorrow. We have another episode of Instant Villains tomorrow, so it should be pretty good. Also, if you want to financially support the show in any way, become a member. For as little as 99 cents a month, you can financially benefit our show and financially give to our show. Now, we have no sponsors. You are the only ones that are able to help us make money. We have 2 tiers right now, but for as little as 99 cents per month, you can become a part of the show and help the show get better in any which way, whether that's having a better camera, a better microphone, better quality, anything to make the show more entertaining and more beneficial for you, the viewer. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked the video, please do that as well. That's free. But for as little as 99 cents per month, you can now subscribe and become a member and financially benefit the show. So I really encourage you to do so. It's not a lot of money. Multiple tiers, and we'll have more tiers in the future. We'll have more access to different things that we don't show on YouTube in the future. But for now, for as little as 99 cents per month, you could financially benefit the show. So I really encourage you to do so. But thank you again for all the support, all the viewers. Really appreciate you. And like I said, we are coming back tomorrow with another episode of Innocent Villains. Shide will be in the studio. It'll be a great time. But until then, I appreciate you. Have a good one. We'll see ya.